Let's talk about movement. Units must spend APs or action points in order to move into a hex or through several hexes. Hexes represent different terrain features and they have different costs. On the terrain chart you have the different terrain features of the game and the effects that they have on the game. You identify a terrain feature by the small symbol in the center of a hex. For example, this is an impassable terrain feature, and if there's a small icon like this one, a small white dot, it's a cover terrain feature. If it's a small rhombus, it's a high ground terrain feature. If it's this small triangles, it's a fortification terrain feature. And the only terrain feature that has no symbols is the clear terrain feature. So as you can tell, this hex has no symbol in the center. So you have the terrain type, clear. Then you have the cost in APs to move through it or move into it. So in this case, for example, if it's an infantry unit, it can move up to 1x spending 1 AP. If it's a vehicle unit, it can spend it can move up to 2 axes if it spends 1 AP. If it's a helicopter, it can move up to 4 axes spending 1 AP. You also have some other pieces of information on the left hand side, but these have to do with combat and lines of sight, and it's something that we'll talk about in a different video. Now, going back to our units and movement, let's pretend I'm the blue player and I want to move this unit. So I'm currently the active player because I have more APs than my opponent, the orange player. So I decide to move, for example, here into this clear hex. I know already that clear hexes cost 1 AP, so I spend my AP, and I want to move further, so I want to move into this other clear hex, so I spend another AP, and I want to move to this other clear hex, spending another AP. So in this case I have fewer APs than my opponent, so I become the reactive player and my opponent becomes the active player. So he will be able to perform any actions he wants to perform. It's very important to remember that in the game there's no limit to the combination of movements, actions and units performing them, as long as I have enough APs, action points, to perform them. So for example, in this case I might have moved only 1x with this unit, and then moved 1x with this other unit, and then moved 1x with this one, or I might have moved 2 x's with this one and 1x with this one, or moved 1x with this one, 1x with this one, and then again 1x with this one. So there's really no limit to the combination of movements and actions I can perform with different units or with the same unit, as long as I have enough APs to perform them.